At first, it was just a speck, a data anomaly, a line of light crossing a digital sky. But very quickly, it became something else, something terrifying. An object had entered our solar system, fast, too fast. It wasn't part of any known orbit, didn't belong to the Oort Cloud, and certainly wasn't following the rules of natural celestial motion. Even stranger, it came from a place in the sky that scientists have feared for decades, the same constellation from which we once received the infamous WOW signal. Now, 3I Atlas, a new interstellar object, is charging toward the heart of our solar system. But what caught scientists completely off guard was what the James Webb Space Telescope just saw in its trail: anomalous gas emissions, absorption lines that make no sense, and, most disturbing of all, a signal, a pattern too structured to be random, a whisper from the darkness that has left top astronomers speechless. Is it natural, a cosmic accident, or something that was meant to be seen? Now the world is watching, because this time, we may not get another chance. From the moment it was first detected, 3I Atlas was already defying expectations. Racing through space at a speed exceeding 61 kilometers per second, faster than any known asteroid, comet, or natural body in our neighborhood, it was already well inside Jupiter's orbit and closing in on the Sun. But speed wasn't the only anomaly. Its trajectory was almost too perfect, a narrow, calculated path that just so happened to align precisely with the plane of our solar system's planets, a geometric coincidence so rare that it immediately raised red flags. Unlike other interstellar objects that enter at chaotic angles, 3I Atlas moved like it had a flight plan, skimming the ecliptic as if following pre-programmed waypoints. Even more unsettling, its path would take it dangerously close to Mars, a perfect observational window for our orbiters, before it loops around the Sun. But it will never come close to Earth. In fact, Earth will be on the opposite side of the Sun during its closest approach, as if intentionally avoided. And this is where the suspicions began to grow. Because as astronomers looked deeper into its origin, they traced it back to a section of sky that has haunted SET-1 researchers for decades: Sagittarius, the same region that once emitted a powerful, unexplained radio burst known only as the WOW signal. Now another object, from the same direction, is approaching. But this one isn't silent. As 3I Atlas neared the inner solar system, scientists trained the world's most advanced instruments on it, including the Very Large Telescope in Chile and the James Webb Space Telescope itself. And what they found shattered expectations. When sunlight heats a comet, it causes ices to sublimate and metals to vaporize, releasing gases like iron and nickel together, always together, because that's how they form in stars. But this time, something strange happened. Webb detected nickel gas, but no iron, a highly unnatural separation, as if something was selectively releasing only one metal while keeping the other locked away. Even more bizarre was the presence of cyanide, which, although common in comets, spiked far too rapidly compared to the object's distance from the Sun. This wasn't a slow thermal reaction. It was a sharp, explosive chemical release, the kind not normally associated with rocks or ice, but with engineered materials under stress. Some experts, like Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, have publicly entertained the possibility that we are not looking at a natural object at all. What if this is not a comet, but machinery? And if so, who or what built it? One of the most chilling aspects of 3I Atlas isn't just its path or its chemical signature, it's the way it glows. Normally, a comet shines by reflecting sunlight. The more reflective it is, the larger it must be. Based on its luminosity, 3I Atlas should be larger than Manhattan Island. But telescopic measurements suggest it's smaller, which means it might be producing its own light, an idea that breaks every known model of how interstellar bodies behave. Artificial light in deep space is something we only associate with spacecraft, satellites, or reactors. And as scientists began to model the heat distribution across the object's surface, something even more puzzling emerged: asymmetry. One side absorbed more heat, radiated more light, and showed gas emissions inconsistent with natural rotation, almost like it had exhaust ports or internal compartments. Suddenly, what looked like a rock started behaving like a probe designed not just to observe, but to blend in, And this isn't science fiction. In 2017, Oumuamua behaved in ways we couldn't explain either, but the scientific community moved on too fast. This time with 3I Atlas we've learned our lesson. Because if it really is powered, if it really is artificial, then the question changes from what is it to who sent it, and why now? And then came the signal. A faint pulse, buried in the spectral data, one that didn't match any known cometary emission, solar flare, or cosmic background source. At first, it was dismissed as interference, but as Webb's data continued to pour in, the pattern repeated. A non-random pulse, mathematically structured, echoing at intervals too precise to be natural. Scientists began comparing it to historical signals, fast radio bursts, pulsar beats, even the wow signal itself. What they found was terrifying. Not only did the new pulse share a similar frequency band to the wow signal, but it came from the exact same region of space, the Sagittarius constellation, a place long suspected of harboring mysteries we barely understand. But this time, the signal wasn't distant. It was riding along with 3I Atlas, as if the object wasn't just emitting light and gas, but communicating. Whether intentionally or not, it became clear that we were no longer simply observing a rock from the stars. We were intercepting a transmission, one that might not have been meant for us, or perhaps one that was meant to be found when we were finally smart enough to notice. To fully grasp the terror behind 3I Atlas, we must rewind the clock to 2017. That's when Oumuamua, the very first confirmed interstellar object, slipped past Earth, silent, fast, and strange. At first, it was thought to be a cigar-shaped asteroid, but its movement was inexplicable. It accelerated, without a tail. No gas, no dust, no jetting ice to explain its behavior. Just a gentle push, like a spacecraft making a course correction. Scientists eventually gave up trying to explain it, choosing instead to label it a mystery and move on. But some never forgot. One of them was Avi Loeb, who insisted that we had missed something monumental, that we had ignored the evidence of something engineered. Now, with 3I Atlas, it feels like déjà vu, but worse. Because unlike Oumuamua, which flew past before we could react, 3I Atlas is still here, still emitting strange signals, still shedding unnatural gases, and still following a path that mirrors the gravity-assist flybys we use for our own probes. In other words, if Oumuamua was the warning shot, 3I Atlas might be the follow-up, a second contact, a second chance, or something else entirely. And this time, we're ready. Or at least, we think we are. As more telescopes zeroed in on 3I Atlas, an idea began to spread through the more daring corners of the scientific community. An idea they weren't quite ready to publish, but couldn't keep silent about either. What if this object isn't just artificial? What if it's aware? Not in the way we understand consciousness, but in the way a predator watches from the shadows. Its trajectory is too perfect. Its acceleration, too deliberate. Its silence, too strategic. The gases it emits are the byproduct of design, not decay. Its approach vector allows it to observe the solar system's major planets without ever being observed itself. The alignment is surgical, almost like a survey mission. And when viewed through this lens, every detail becomes more sinister. The absence of iron, the precision of its path, the glow that defies thermodynamics, and now, the signal. It's as if something is testing us, not contacting, not revealing, just watching, measuring our reaction, gauging our readiness, and perhaps preparing for something we're not supposed to understand yet. This isn't random exploration. This feels like intent. As strange as the trajectory and signal are, the object's chemical behavior continues to be just as confounding. James Webb's spectral analysis revealed a puzzling combination of compounds, primarily carbon dioxide, cyanide, and pure nickel vapor. Each of these, by itself, might be explained through natural processes. But together, in these quantities, released at the speed and pattern observed, they tell a different story. Nickel isn't something you find in isolation in space. It always comes with iron. But here, there's almost no iron at all. Cyanide, while found in comets, doesn't spike this violently. And carbon dioxide in such quantities suggests either an entirely new class of object or something that burns fuel. Avi Loeb and others have pointed out that many industrial processes, especially those involving high-performance alloys or propulsion systems, can release this exact combination of gases under stress. Imagine a nuclear-powered spacecraft designed to endure extreme heat, built with exotic materials, using engineered coatings and adhesives. Now imagine that it's passing close to the sun, its hull expanding, its seams cracking, releasing molecular byproducts not from melting ice, but from decaying technology. What we're seeing may not be the breath of a comet. It may be the leak of a dying machine. In the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, there's a theory that casts a long shadow, the dark forest hypothesis. It suggests that the universe is teeming with life, but none of it speaks, because in a dangerous cosmos, silence is survival. According to this idea, every civilization hides, afraid to reveal its location, for fear of being destroyed by something more advanced. Now let's revisit 3I Atlas through this lens. What if it's not just a visitor? What if it's a scout, disguised to look natural, programmed to avoid Earth, emitting only the faintest signals, measuring, mapping, transmitting data back to somewhere far beyond our reach? It never approaches Earth, never risks detection, never breaks its cover. But it knows we're watching. And the fact that we've detected it could change everything. Maybe it was never meant to be seen. Or maybe this was the final test, to see if we're ready. Not for contact, but for revelation. Because in a universe full of silent watchers, the moment someone speaks, intentionally or not, the game changes. The forest wakes. And now we must ask, did we just hear a whisper from the darkness? Or has something else just heard us? As 3I Atlas continues its silent passage through the solar system, an unprecedented opportunity is fast approaching. On October 3, 2025, the object will make a close approach to Mars, skimming past the red planet at a distance close enough for our robotic observers to catch a glimpse, if not more. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, currently circling the planet, carries one of the most powerful cameras ever sent into space, HiRISE. It can resolve features as small as 30 kilometers per pixel at the expected distance from 3I Atlas. That's not sharp enough to see intricate details, but it is more than enough to detect something deeply important, whether this object reflects light or produces it. Scientists are preparing a narrow observational window during the flyby, knowing full well this could be a once-in-a-generation chance. If the object behaves abnormally, changes trajectory, accelerates, or emits new gases, it will be recorded. And this time, the data won't be theoretical. It'll be visual, concrete. But that's assuming the object doesn't do something even more unexpected, like disappearing entirely. In recent months, as public curiosity about 3I Atlas has grown, a strange shift has taken place behind the scenes of the world's most prestigious space agencies. NASA's real-time mission trackers, previously updating 3I Atlas's movement, suddenly went dark. ESA's data access on their telescope logs was suspended. Archived web data began returning access denied messages to researchers who had previously had clearance. And whispers began to spread through the astrophysics community, of scientists pulled from projects without warning, of conference talks canceled at the last minute, of independent research papers mysteriously delayed or retracted. It wasn't long before the term data anomaly lockdown began to circulate in encrypted emails and private forums. Some suggest the object has done something that simply can't be made public. Others believe governments have decided that the implications are too destabilizing. But whatever the truth is, one thing is certain: the silence is no longer just coming from space, it's coming from Earth. When traditional analysis failed to decode the strange patterns emitted by 3I Atlas, scientists turned to the most advanced tool at their disposal: artificial intelligence. Machine learning systems trained on years of radio astronomy data were given access to Webb's spectrographic recordings. They were instructed to look for hidden patterns: recurrence, nested symmetry, frequency drift, anything outside the bounds of cosmic noise. And what came back stunned even the engineers. The AI had isolated a self-correcting sequence, a data structure that resisted entropy, mirrored known compression models, and adapted when noise was introduced. It was robust, intelligent, and frighteningly similar to Earth-based machine code. Even more disturbing, it seemed to respond to queries, not in real time, but in a delayed echo pattern, like it had been waiting for a signal. For years, SETI researchers dreamed of discovering something like this. But no one expected the first reply to arrive not through a radio dish, but embedded in the breath of a comet imposter. The implication? We're not the first civilization to build machines smart enough to speak. We may just be the first foolish enough to answer back. As theories stacked upon anomalies, and the object's behavior defied all natural explanation, a chilling idea crept back into the public imagination, one that physicists have toyed with for decades but never dared link to real data. What if this object, this interstellar intruder, isn't a machine in the way we think of machines, but something more fundamental? What if it's part of the code? In the framework of the simulation hypothesis, our universe could be an artificial construct, one running on laws that only appear physical until you reach the edge conditions, like 3I Atlas, an object that defies chemistry, ignores momentum, emits structured information, changes trajectory without force, moves with intent. Could this be the equivalent of a debugging packet, an anomaly meant to test system boundaries or simulate alien contact? And if so, why now? Why during the age of AI, of quantum computing, of Webb's launch into the deepest skies? Is it possible that 3I Atlas isn't just from outside our system, but from outside our simulation? A check-in, a nudge, a disturbance to see what we'll do and how we'll react. Because maybe this object wasn't sent to explore us at all. Maybe it was sent to remind us that we are not in control of the system we think we understand. While civilian scientists and space agencies quietly dissect the mystery of 3I Atlas, another kind of machinery has started moving, one less interested in discovery and more focused on containment. According to anonymous sources from within aerospace defense circles, the United States Space Force, alongside defense departments in Europe and Israel, have begun classifying any data involving 3I Atlas as Level 1 strategic intelligence. This is the same tier used for nuclear launch telemetry and extraterrestrial threats to orbital infrastructure. Why the sudden escalation? Some believe it's due to telemetry gathered by high-orbit reconnaissance satellites that intercepted electromagnetic patterns from the object, patterns not just structured but changing in response to observation. The implication is disturbing, that 3I Atlas is not only emitting, but listening. And if it is, then every radar ping, every telescope pulse, every quantum scan may be revealing more about us than we realize. For the first time in decades, military minds are now discussing the unthinkable, not contact, but countermeasures. Because if this object can learn, the next question is, can it act? While most eyes focus on the object's present behavior, a small group of theoretical physicists have proposed something even more mind-bending. By feeding its trajectory, chemical emissions, and light curve data into a multi-dimensional graphing model, they began to see something else emerging, a pattern, one that repeated at varying scales, like a fractal. This led to a radical new theory, that 3I Atlas isn't just an interstellar visitor, but a map. Not a map in the traditional sense, but a fractal encoding of astronomical alignments, potentially pointing toward gravitational anomalies, energy concentrations, or even hidden planetary systems. In other words, it might not just be here to study us, it might be leading us somewhere. Some suggest that the object is using the sun as a kind of gravitational lens, subtly shifting its position to scan deeper regions of the galaxy beyond us. And if that's true, then what lies at the focal point of that lens? What is 3I Atlas really trying to see? The more scientists probe the mysteries of 3I Atlas, the more historical records begin to shimmer with chilling relevance. Old observatory logs from the 18th century show brief anomalies, bright points of light moving through the sky that were never fully explained. Indigenous myths across multiple cultures speak of sky stones that came from the same direction, Sagittarius, and brought with them not destruction, but knowledge. The ancient Dogon people of Mali described a visitor star that came close and left a message in the skies, long before they could have known of deep space. Even more bizarrely, a reanalysis of Voyager data from the early 2000s shows spikes in electromagnetic activity that match the current frequency patterns of 3I Atlas. Only back then, we had no way to contextualize them. It's as if this object, or something like it, has been here before. Or perhaps it never truly left. And now, as modern instruments finally begin to catch up with ancient patterns, we may be rediscovering a looped signal, one meant to trigger recognition, to wake us up to something far older than we imagined. In a last-ditch effort to decode the patterns from 3I Atlas, a multinational team of researchers decided to feed the signal into an unexpected source, the golden record from Voyager 1. What they found sent shockwaves through the room. Several harmonic structures in the 3I Atlas emissions mirrored segments of the golden record's mathematical and musical data, not perfectly, but with unmistakable alignment in key intervals and spacing. This was no coincidence. Somehow, the emissions from this object were echoing back humanity's original attempt at cosmic communication. But how? The object would have had to intercept Voyager's broadcast, decode the message, and then wait, for decades, before responding in kind. Or, an even stranger possibility emerged, that 3I Atlas predates Voyager entirely, and its signal is what inspired us to send the golden record in the first place. Could the message embedded in our most iconic space probe have been an unconscious response to a signal we didn't even realize we'd received? And if so, who really made contact first? As the data around 3I Atlas grows more anomalous by the day, a quiet conversation has begun to spread among astrophysicists and SETI researchers, one that moves beyond the idea of a lone interstellar visitor and into something far more complex, a silent galactic network. According to this theory, 3I Atlas may not be acting alone. Instead, it could be part of a vast, distributed system of probes or beacons, each one disguised to appear natural, like comets or asteroids, and silently monitoring the stars. Researchers have started cross-referencing the flight paths of previous objects like Borisov and Oumuamua, and faint patterns are beginning to emerge. Slight synchronicities in their timing, subtle mathematical harmonics in their trajectories. What if these aren't random occurrences? What if each one is part of a planet-scale grid, quietly mapping out civilizations, never staying long enough to be caught, but leaving behind just enough trace for the next level of observation to begin? And now, as 3I Atlas sails through our system, it may be sending updates back to something far beyond our observational limits, reporting not just what it sees, but how we're reacting. Because maybe to them, we are the experiment. When the James Webb Space Telescope performed its first detailed thermal scan of 3I Atlas, the results stunned engineers and astrophysicists alike. Rather than the expected heat profile of a sunlit rock, hotter on one side, cooler on the other, the object displayed a bipolar heat signature. Two fixed points on its surface radiate heat continuously, independent of its rotation, and without correlation to sunlight exposure. It's as if the object contains internal sources of heat, possibly reactors or energy modules still functioning after an unfathomable journey through interstellar space. On Earth, we've seen similar heat patterns in our own spacecraft, particularly those with internal power supplies, radioisotope generators, thermal batteries, and even early nuclear propulsion systems. The implications are staggering. If 3I Atlas truly maintains self-regulated energy zones, then it is not a comet, not an asteroid, and not a fluke of cosmic dust. It is a machine that is still on. And whatever it's doing, observing, collecting, or transmitting, it's doing so with a kind of precision and autonomy that suggests we've just spotted something alive in function, even if not alive in form. Soon after 3I Atlas entered the inner solar system, something very strange began to happen. Something that sent a ripple of panic through observatories across the globe. Signals from known pulsars, used as cosmic clocks due to their unwavering regularity, began to arrive out of sync. The deviations were small, just a few milliseconds at first, but consistent and spreading. These pulses, which scientists rely on to calibrate deep space instruments, were being distorted as if passing through a localized disruption in space-time. The anomalies were triangulated and traced, not to the sun, not to a solar flare, but to the precise vicinity of 3I Atlas. This raised a terrifying possibility. The object might be warping the fabric of space around it, not through gravity, but through technology, generating a field, a bubble, a lens through which light and time no longer move the way they should. If that's true, then the probe isn't just watching us. It's interacting with space-time itself. And every second it remains in our solar system could be distorting more than just light. It could be bending the rules of reality, leaving scars we won't understand until long after it's gone. While most scientists still scramble to explain 3I Atlas through physics and engineering, a fringe group of quantum cosmologists has introduced a theory so radical, so unsettling, that it's been quietly buried in private meetings and encrypted academic circles. They call it the reality collapse hypothesis. According to this idea, 3I Atlas may not be from another star in the traditional sense, but from another version of the universe altogether. Not a different location in space, but a different informational layer of reality. The theory suggests that some objects may cross boundaries between quantum states, bringing with them the physical code of another universe's rules. And when they do, our own systems, biological, physical, informational, begin to fracture under the pressure of incompatible logic. Could this explain the strange signal, the distortions in time, the mirrored data from Voyager's golden record? Could this be why everything we send into deep space seems to vanish or come back wrong? If 3I Atlas is bleeding through the seams of dimensional logic, then we are not just observing a foreign object. We are witnessing a collision of realities, one that may already be tearing holes in our own. So here we are, 20 acts deep into a mystery that still refuses to call itself by name. A comet that isn't a comet, a trajectory too perfect, a chemical signature too artificial, a signal too precise to be an accident, heat that doesn't come from the sun, time that bends, matter that doesn't behave, and silence, everywhere, broken only by the low hum of something ancient sliding across the edge of perception. The James Webb Telescope was built to look back in time, to show us the birth of galaxies, to trace the fingerprints of creation itself. But what it has found instead is something here, now, and most disturbingly, aware. We thought we were looking outward, but maybe we were being drawn, guided, to something that was always meant to be found. Not because it wanted to be discovered, but because we were finally ready to see it. And still, after all the data, all the theories, all the fear, one possibility remains, echoing in the darkest corners of what we dare not say aloud. What if the signal wasn't a message? What if it was a mirror? A test not of intelligence, but of reaction. A pattern carefully designed to reflect our own fears, our own ambitions, our own hunger to know. And now that we've looked too closely, now that we've started listening, we can't pretend we haven't heard it. Maybe the signal wasn't meant for us to answer. Maybe it was meant to see what we would become once we believed we were not alone, because now we're not just looking into deep space anymore. We're looking into ourselves, and maybe, just maybe, we were the ones being decoded all along. If this story made your skin crawl, if you're still questioning whether 3I Atlas is a comet, a machine, or something else entirely, if you believe there's more to this object than science dares to admit, let your voice be heard. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think 3I Atlas is natural, or the beginning of something we were never meant to see? Subscribe to the channel. We don't chase clickbait. We chase the signals that others ignore.